Ledman Fife had led a life so boring and mundane that every day he went to work, the action seemed the same. The beepings and the buzzings and the scannings, oh so dread, were romping, stomping like a rhino through poor Ledman's head. As Ledman walked the country path that always led him home, he thought of strange encounters from the many books he owned. But with a shrug, the cogitation swiftly fled away. His thoughts then focused on the meal his wife had made that day. He walked into his tiny house and kissed his tiny bride, and knew his trust and love in her he always could confide. He watched her as she added salt and just a dash of pepper, and knew that this was set to be a lovely Hassenpfeffer. He changed into his evening garb and heard his belly grumble. "Just a few more hours, dear," his wife said with a mumble. He read the latest issue of It Came Down from the Sky and studied charts and maps to check for comets flying by. He thought it wise then to himself to take an evening walk, to let his mind and body rest and in his life take stock. It was just then he realized that things were not quite sound, as his foot that lingered in the air had not yet hit the ground. Blinding white had filled his sight, his heart had almost stilled, when out another hole our dear old Ledman now had spilled. He then stood up and looked around from left and then to right, and realized the vast new world that lay within his sight. Angel, demon, friend or foe, the question now arose. Our Ledman just to brave this world must stay upon his toes. Back to the edge of time and space our pilgrim seemed to be, when a charming creature stopped his plunge into eternity. She smiled, laughed, and stroked his hair, and went along her way, as Ledman stood up to his feet and gazed in disarray. He followed this strange creature now, as best as one man could, then stumbled to a twisted house and thought to enter, if he should. He entered in this warped estate and saw a haunting pair, and realized that sometimes you just simply have to stare. It was just then he heard a verse of melody so fine, that what had made such lovely song must be his own in time. He spat the rank concoction up, remembering new set plans, then spied the prize that he had sought and grabbed it as he ran. He sped outside, and like a frightened rabbit now he fled, to take himself a newfound prize back to his own homestead. Just then he realized his precious treasure had been lost, and knew he must retrieve it with great haste and at all cost. He concluded that the box had fallen back into the hole, and dove back in the chasm to retrieve what he had stole. As he ran toward the item which he thought he wanted most, the door that he was running for would soon be fully closed. It was then that he heard the bell for dinner ringing from behind, and turned about and saw that he was running out of time. Perplexed by what the fates had wrought, he knew he must decide to stay and face the real world, or in fantasy to hide. Poor Ledman learned that striving for 2 rabbits, and not one, will lose a man to rabbits and end him up with none.